I love that you mentioned, Jake, Tether. And have you ever checked on their white paper? Do you know the secret that's hiding there?
Oh, I think you're on mute, Jake.
Yeah, he's on mute. He's on mute.
I said, no, enlighten me.
Oh, okay. So this is our favorite page of Tether white paper. Everyone can find on the official Tether website on page 10. They come out with implementation weaknesses. So I'm going to read this. And by the way, guys, English is not my mother language. So sometimes I do mistakes. When I record videos, sometimes I have to say the things like twice. So we understand that our implementation doesn't immediately create a fully trustless cryptocurrency system, mainly because users must trust Tether Limited and our corresponding legacy banking institution to be the custodian of the reserve assets. However, almost all exchanges and wallets, assuming they hold USD or fiat currencies, are subject to the same weaknesses. And here's a summary of those weaknesses. So the first one, we could go bankrupt, okay? I'm not making this stuff up. This is actually on Tether white paper. Number 2 is actually our bank could go insolvent. Number 3, our bank could freeze or confiscate the funds. Very interesting also. And here's the best one. We could abscond with the reserve funds. So the first time I saw this, I actually had to check the meaning of abscond. As I said, I'm not a native English speaker. And it really means they could disappear in a very suspicious way with everyone's funds. You guys probably know English better than me, so I want to hear your thoughts about that.
That is wild that is right there on their white paper. You have to disclose risk, right? Anytime you're working with a financial institution, I don't know if Tether actually has any banking licenses, but they've mentioned that they consider themselves a bank here. I don't know that they use fractional reserve lending. We know early on that they would mint Tether and buy Bitcoin and back the Tether that they had just minted with the Bitcoin that they purchased with it. And there's been a very strong correlation of how much Tether's in circulation with the price of Bitcoin over the duration that they've both been around. So it'd be interesting to see, if they were to just abscond with everybody's money and run off. It's not like they didn't tell you, it's right there.
Now, because if you look at what they're doing, besides taking profits and converting all that into physical gold, like you said, they have a lot of physical gold now on their balance sheets. What's funny is if you think about that, they don't even trust the very asset that they claim to be holding as a backing, right? They're accumulating real hard assets, sovereign wealth, while convincing people still that stablecoins, which are essentially dollar-pegged IOUs, are safe. I think that's just a massive red flag, but like you said, they're telling you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they have Tether Gold, right?
Yeah.
Like they do. Stablecoin, and then they also have USAT, which they're going to be rolling out with Bo Hines over as the head of that. And for me, both of those things are tells, right? Like this is the evolution of that company, and they know that they need to get in a position to where they're solvent and can continue to persist on the other side of this. But I do think that there is going to be a point where when the reverse carry trade unwinds, Tether depegs and loses, a lot of confidence along with everything else.
Essentially, that is then the compliance taking over in the digital ecosystem. And we're talking now about RLUSD getting more value on chain to the XRP Ledger. Can I ask you something? Maybe you could clarify this for the audience. I've done it 100 times, but they keep coming back with the same questions.
Okay.
XRP and RLUSD, people think one is taking over the other. They don't realize they actually are interwoven.
Yeah, they complement one another. So liquidity begets liquidity, right? So the more value you can move onto the XRP ledger and then settle through XRP, right? RLUSD settling with whatever other tokenized derivatives are out there. In exchange, VanEck has now launched their product that's interoperable with RLUSD, and you've got more and more of these financial institutions, giving Ripple money to be able to mint RLUSD for them to be able to list it and trade it and do things with it. Over time, that liquidity will move through XRP and vice versa. And that's the whole point. And it also, again, kind of sets up a standard for people issuing stablecoins on the XRPL, how that's going to look, what it's going to do, and the liquidity that provides so that it illustrates that for other institutions that want to do the same thing. They're the market leader for it. I don't know that they'll be the largest stablecoin over the long term, but I think they're definitely always going to be a player. And as long as, again, this is kind of the same thing with Tether, you have to trust the counterparty, right? But if they have audited, transparent financials that they're able to share with people, then that provides a lot more confidence. Tether doesn't have that.
Yeah.
Well, I think they had like a top 14 audit firm come in and work with them at some point, and they have like percentages on their website or somewhere where they've disclosed what they're holding, and that's how people know that there's a portion of it that's gold and other things that are not treasuries themselves. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how all of this plays out, but I do think the XRPL is going to be the main blockchain that CBDCs and stablecoins are going to be issued on.
I totally agree with you. And as more of its use cases continue to expand, it's going to have to climb to a higher and higher price to satisfy that demand. Quick other question as well. Where was I going with this? Do you think XRP will decouple from the traditional markets? Because I've always believed for it to fulfill its true intended purpose, it has to decouple from traditional markets by design, because it's supposed to operate as its own settlement system. And in my opinion, it really is going in that direction. I don't know if the Clarity Act will help, but certainly it will kill a lot of the speculation out there. And, what do you think about that?
We've seen it decouple once, and that was when people found the trust that had been filed in Delaware for BlackRock's iShares XRP ETF. Which they, swept under the rug and said that it was fake, and Bloomberg came out and reported on it. But you never had a comment from Ripple or from BlackRock directly on that. And it decoupled from the rest of the market immediately when that announcement, kind of hit Twitter. But I think that that's going to be, the point in time when that happens again is when BlackRock steps in, and there will be likely a supply shock that allows XRP to decouple from the rest of the crypto market and Bitcoin. I often watch the XRP Bitcoin chart just to see, the long descending triangle where it's at. And there has been times in its past where XRP has appreciated substantially against Bitcoin in a very short period of time. I think that we will likely see that again. We've already started to see it a little bit. We've seen, volume on the Bitcoin ETFs slow down, or actually outflows from the Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs. And we've seen the majority of those flows move into the XRP ETFs, which is very different than previous cycles. Normally that rotation would happen on exchanges, but now that the institutions have, put out these derivatives and they are adopting this asset class and providing it to their investors, I think that that's where the rotation of liquidity is going to happen this cycle. And I do think that that's what's going to cause XRP to decouple from the rest of the financial markets.
Yeah, it has to. It's very possible it could be a geopolitical pressure, like the carry trade, for instance. And it doesn't just happen in Japan. It could be happening all over the world simultaneously, because we're not just playing with the Japanese market. We're playing with every market. If you read the book Economic Hitman, they've infiltrated every financial institution around the planet, and they're obviously coordinating for some major event where and that's where you get that flip the switch moment, I guess. Something breaks, and we're already seeing the signals everywhere, but then bang, all the infrastructure's there, the institutions are ready, the regulations are there, and bang, you start using XRP, climbs to a higher price, and that's your supply shock. Something like that could happen easily.